Well, thanks for joining me for some more stories from the What Were They Thinking file. If you missed the first part of this video, there's a link available on the publications page of printmailconsultants.com. I've got a couple more stories to tell you about mailing jobs gone bad. Then I want to go over a few steps that you can take to prevent errors from becoming news items. Finally, I've got some stories about the efforts of some heads-up print mail people that I want to share with you too. Here's a real obvious mistake that nobody caught it. Really makes you scratch your head. Douglas County, Nebraska sent out 25,000 vehicle registration renewals, including remittance envelopes. It wasn't until residents started sending in payments using their own envelopes that they realized something was wrong. As it turns out, the face of the return envelopes had no delivery address printed on them. Instead, the treasurer's delivery address was printed in the upper left-hand corner, where the return address normally would be. Two printing companies, the mailing company, and the county itself all reviewed proofs of the material before production started, and nobody caught the mistake. When you start over with a new vendor, the chief deputy treasurer said, you start over with everything. Good advice. This next story out of California has to be one of the most expensive mailing mistakes ever made. The state of California is slashing the education and rehabilitation programs it supplies to prisoners in the state prison. Part of the budget cutting process involves laying off a number of the employees that are administering these prison education plans. And by law, they have to give the workers a 30-day notice. Well, the envelopes containing the letters with the notices were metered 30 days in advance. But because of an unspecified clerical error, some of the letters had to be redone. And they didn't go out into the mail until later in the week or into the next week. As a result, some workers didn't get their layoff notices until 2 weeks before their termination date. As a result of this mailing error, 850 workers in the programs that they ran stayed on the payroll for an extra month. The price tag for this extra month of service? $7 million. Now, the agency blamed the clerical workers and the student employees that were doing the job in that they did not understand the importance of what they were doing. And they said nobody up above was really paying attention. You know, print mail services and many organizations don't get credit for the critical role that they play in daily operations. Stories like this really illustrate how important they really are. Now here's a couple of stories that illustrate how some small changes in the documents that we print and mail can have a big impact on the organizations we serve. In Maricopa County, Arizona, the tax assessor's office switched from a number 10 envelope containing multiple sheets and several public information inserts to a single sheet folded down into a self-mailer to communicate property valuations. This one small change netted the tax assessor's office a 40% savings on this annual job. And in Orange Park, Florida, an alert clerk noticed that the town was paying letter-sized postage for their utility bill postcards. Upon closer examinations, they realized that the postcards were slightly out of spec. By trimming 1/8 of an inch off of the edge, they were able to qualify under postcard rates and started saving 27% on their postage immediately. Nobody missed the extra 1/8 of an inch. Okay, here's 6 things to remember as you're doing your own projects. These measures can prevent you from making the kind of mistakes that make it into my What Were They Thinking file. 1. Always compare the original raw data to the final printed output. This is especially important if you're working with multiple data sources or if you're doing any kind of fancy data manipulation. This kind of analysis would have caught the error on the Canton, Ohio sewer bills. 2. Always check the front and the back of duplex printed jobs. Duplex jobs are prone to errors if there's variable data on both sides, and it's usually pretty easy to catch. A close examination will reveal that there is information from 2 different accounts on either side. And if there's a processing problem, such as a jam, especially pay very close attention to the job as it starts back up to make sure that everything is in sync. Three, make sure address information and nothing else shows through the windows of window envelopes. Use a tap test and try several different pieces. Problems often occur when there's extra statement pages or when address blocks become 6 or 7 lines long. Also, format documents so that confidential information is printed far enough away from the windows that they won't show through. Four, eliminate as many manual steps as possible and avoid splitting jobs into small pieces. It's really easy to not print one batch and to print another batch twice. Given the operating procedures that were in place in Oak Ridge, Oregon, it was just a matter of time before errors got made there. Five, if you switch vendors on your jobs, check everything. Do not assume that everything will be done as it was in the past. And six, make sure everybody that handles the job understands its importance. Communicating the impact that the documents will have on your internal or external clients helps workers at all levels make better decisions. If you've got questions about quality issues in your own shop, either in the past or coming up in the future, give me a call. I'd be happy to chat with you about them. Thanks for listening, and keep watching Mailing Systems Technology's websites and their publications for more operational tips and hints.